Welcome to the Vertical MRO podcast, where we unveil the mysteries of the maintenance, repair, and overhauls and explore the cutting edge of innovations that drive the helicopter industry forward. I'm your host, Val Medved, and today we're honored to have a true industry luminary with us. Ladies and gents, please meet Mr. Anthony Saenz, a titan in the aerospace realm with over 27 years and now at the helm of JASCO Consulting LLC. His expertise shines brightly through Arizona skies and beyond. But Anthony's journey doesn't stop there. As a former president of Able Aerospace and a senior VP at Able Aerospace Incorporated, I should say, his leadership has propelled companies to new heights, ensuring safety and efficiency in every endeavor with his new consulting firm that he's running. Anthony's trailblazing career traces back to his roots as an engineer at the industry giants like Honeywell, Triumph, and others. From VP to engineering to president, he's left an indelible mark on every venture he's touched. Join us as we dive deep into Anthony's insights, learnings, and the invaluable lessons he's learned throughout his illustrious career. Get ready to soar through the skies and knowledge of Anthony Saenz, your guide to aerospace excellence. This is Vertical MRO. Thanks for listening to Vertical MRO. A special thanks to our sponsors, Vertical Aviation International and Precision Aviation Group.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.
All right, everyone, you're ready for contact. You're cleared to the Bravo.
The Vertical MRO podcast explores the fascinating world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul with your host, Val Medved.
Atlanta altimeter 3029, approved as requested.
The podcast features helicopter technicians, mechanics, engineers, and MRO experts who share invaluable industry insight, knowledge, and stories that will inspire current and aspiring industry maintainers.
All right, welcome to Vertical MRO. I'm your host, solamente here, Valentino Medved. I'm flying solo. Mr. John Gray is away this week. But with me, I have the kind of overview of an episode here with a gentleman who, a wealth of experience, engineering for the MRO side of the world, purposes manufacturing, and basically leading and taking over companies into a new stratosphere, if you will. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you my good friend, Mr. Anthony Saenz. Say hello, Anthony.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? How you doing, Val?
I'm doing awesome, buddy. You looking good? Looking spry?
Oh, you as well. You as well.
It's that Arizona sun that keeps you looking young, my friend.
Absolutely. We're warm already, guys. T-shirt weather already.
What's the temps?
86 today.
Oh, okay. That's not bad. And when I was there last week and we scratched 95 and 100 a couple of times. So
it's coming. It's coming. Way too soon.
You might as well make the joke, buddy, but it's a dry heat.
No, it's hot.
I had the comparison.
So's an oven, right? So's an oven, yeah.
I had the comparison one time when I lived there for 3 years, as you know, and I had a family that visited with me, and they came up and said, "You know what? It's like literally standing next to your Ford F1 truck, F-150 truck for like 3 or 4 hours. That's how hot it is." Anyway, again, welcome, Mr. Anthony Saenz. What's in your what's in your cup, buddy? How we doing? Cheers.
Well, I got cheers. I've got Traveler's whiskey. It's a Buffalo Trace whiskey that went in conjunction with Chris Stapleton's. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Cheers. Chattanooga 111 right here, buddy. Yeah. Cheers to you.
Hey.
It's the good stuff. I have to cut it with a little bit of water because at 111, I might not finish the podcast.
Yeah, no lie.
Yeah. Well, just an overview of who and what we're doing here, buddy. This is kind of like an intro to the MRO side of the world. We're going to cover a ton of bases here with all of our guests here, and you're a specialized guest here because you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, right, and you've contributed quite a bit. So thanks for all of that.
Well, thank you.
Before we get into the beat of it, before we get into the weeds,
all right,
we have a little icebreaker session. I got to slow my speech down here a little bit. So just to kind of keep me calm, clearly.
All right.
If you could have any view from your office in any part of the world, where would it be, my friend?
Oh man, I tell you, I'd be spoiled. I'd want to be in Montana, a mountain in the front of my house, and a lake in the back of the house. So I want it all.
You're like a Yellowstoner over here. Good for you, buddy.
Yellowstone would be awesome. Yeah. Something like that to me would be, I'd consider myself there. I made it. So.
Nicely done. It's having lived in the mountains there. I lived in Calgary, Alberta for a couple of years there. I got a taste of that, but we didn't have necessarily the lakes behind it. Being close to the mountains, there is something that kind of definitely grounds you a little bit by being close to those big rocks.
I agree.
So mine would be, I'd just find some place that'd be, maybe accessible via sailboat and just sail to the point where your butter melts in your hand. That's just what I'd like to be. Okay, so we're getting down here. So who, and this is probably going back a little bit here, who's your childhood crush, buddy?
Man, childhood crush. Whew. Well, you're gonna laugh. This kind of tells you how old I am. Farrah Fawcett. I don't even know
What's
if you know who that girl is. She was one
dude?
of
She's
Charlie's.
ageless.
She's one of Charlie's angels.
Oh
So yeah,
yeah.
back then I thought, well, that's fine.
Is that a poster behind you or of her still behind you there, bud, or what's going on?
No, I don't think so. No, yeah.
Farrah Fawcett's ageless, man. Lee Major's
Yeah.
wife. Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Well, before she was his wife, though. Yeah.
Right. Charlie's Angels. The path to a lot of young boys and young men's dreams, I'm sure of it.
What about yours, Val? Just out of curiosity.
Oh
That's a good
man,
question.
I'm going back in here. I'm trying to think of the years that my childhood crush. I'm not far off you, buddy. I'm Cheryl Ladd.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, same genre. So
Yeah.
you can't see her that much older than me here, but we're kind of same genre. That was my first one.
Yeah.
Like Cheryl, that Charlie's Angels thing. That was a boot rocker, head knocker, right? So last but not least, buddy, because you're a pretty chill guy. So this is a little piece for me to kind of chew on a little bit here. What activity helps you relieve a little bit of the stress in your life, bud?
Oh, that's an easy one. Mountain biking. Yeah, I love getting on my bike and getting out in the mountains and just playing around with the wilderness. So
Attaboy, you got yourself a setup?
I do. Yeah, I got a E-Assist Specialized Pro. So it's a full-fledged mountain bike, rides like a mountain bike, feels like a mountain bike, and just when you get to the bigger mountains, you need just a little bit of help. You just pop it into the one of the powers, and it assists you. It's not a motor that drives the bike, but it's a motor that will assist you as you pedal. And
I'm sure your knees are thanking you.
the knees, and well, quite honestly, what I get to do with, because people say, well, that's kind of cheating. Well, instead of doing 12 miles, I can do now, 30 miles.
Yeah,
I can get a lot deeper into the, into nature before I have to turn around and come back. So I'm enjoying it. So
I got you. Good for you, dude. That's like you said, mountain biking is, and you know where you live, you're southern. So Anthony he's a resident of Southern Arizona. So by talking about mountain biking, you must go up to like the Show Low, to the mountain areas and north of Flagstaff, I guess I should say, right?
We've done most of Arizona, to be quite honest with you, and a lot of other areas. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done, sir. Well done. Me, it's fishing. Anybody who knows me, fishing.
I like that too.
There's a saying amongst us fishermen: the tug's the drug, and take that as it sounds.
Tug's the drug. I like that.
The tug's the drug. Awesome. Well, again, Anthony, we're gonna get into the weeds here with you now. Here with your career, from where it started, where it's been, where it's at, and where it's going. So, generally speaking, when I look back at your accomplishments and everything you've done along, and I'm proud to say I've known you for a while too. So we've been close friends there as well. So you shared a little bit. But I wanted to introduce you to our world of the MRO and our listeners to what it takes to kind of have the ability to do what you've done, from entry level to midpoint to even running the company and having an introduction into that world. So I'm just going to ask you, if you don't mind, just tell me where you started with and who you started with.
Right. My degrees, I have a master's in international business and a bachelor's in metallurgical engineering. And when I first came out of school, I went to Garrett here in Phoenix, which is now Honeywell Aerospace.
Okay, well known.
So I worked the first 5 years with them. They're, strict OEM. So I got my feet definitely into the aerospace game, and I got the knowledge in terms of how the OEMs think and where they need to go and what we need to do to develop an asset. Yeah, so after 5 years, I got an opportunity to go into the aftermarket industry, which is unlike the OEM. The OEMs develop the new stuff,
yeah,
and then it comes time to support that new stuff. And quite honestly, the OEMs are really good at developing new, but kind of, at least at that point in my career, they were kind of lacking in terms of support. So I went to a aftermarket company called Walbar, and we started there. And actually, we were working hand in hand with Garrett / Honeywell to develop their aftermarket support. So when the customers would call Honeywell and say, "Hey, I have something broken," they would look at us to help them with that. So
on the aftermarket side.
On the aftermarket side. So I took that. We moved to New York. My wife and I and my family, we moved to New York and worked for a company by the name of Chromalloy Research and Technology. and this is back in the early, well, I should say in the late 80s. And quite honestly, at that point in time, it was the juggernaut of all juggernauts when it came to aftermarket repair.
And there's I know a lot of folks that came from the Chromalite side. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So over the 5 years that I was there, I just learned a boatload of stuff from professionals and from guys who were industry experts. So I was very spoiled, very, very lucky. At that point, I got a call back in Arizona, and I always promised my wife I would move back. We would move back to Arizona.
little environmental change there from Arizona to New York.
It was good though, yeah. But that's part of, as you had mentioned, when you're developing your career, that's part of what you have to do. There is sacrifices that have to be made. I knew where I needed to go to get the best knowledge in terms of the market that I was in, and luckily got the opportunity to do it. So came back to a company here in the Valley called AMTI, and that's where we really kicked off and started doing air work for the OEM. And we were working, unlike what you hear now, the industry has a sense that you have these two entities that are opposed to each other. You've got the OEM and you've got the aftermarket people, and they're not friends. Well, in fact, we're both necessary evils to each other. We need each other.
For lack of a better term, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a matter of fact, all of AMTI, the whole structure of AMTI was based on Honeywell asking them to do all the aftermarket repair for them. So we had complete support of the OEM. We had the data, we had their knowledge, we had, when somebody would call them, they would tell them to go to AMTI. I know I'm kind of going into the weeds here.
No, please.
But it was, I really wanted to make everyone understand that in the aerospace industry, you've got to have the OEM. I mean, they are the ones that actually keep this big boat rolling forward, this big plane flying, and the new technology. You've got to have them. And then you have to have the aftermarket to make it palatable and economical for the people out there, the customers out there, to be able to keep these aircraft flying, or engines running, or whatever it may take. So, went to AMTI, developed. Go ahead, Val.
I was going to say, I know, and I know, where my day job is, and the struggles that we go about as far as PMA aftermarket versus OEM. You think it's still the same? You think that attitude hasn't changed or diverted a little bit from the times that you're just talking about? Because I know at one time there was a synergy of accepting a little bit aftermarket. Do you think it's still the same? Do you think it's kind of valleyed off a little bit?
Thank you to our sponsor, Vertical Aviation International. With 80 years of service under our belts, the helicopter industry continues to innovate. We're growing with new aircraft and technology coming to the flight line and hangar. The industry's association is changing too. Helicopter Association International, or HAI, is now VAI, Vertical Aviation International. VAI unites the industry and advocates for you. Visit verticalavi.org/benefits to see how joining VAI connects you with your vertical community. Together, let's power up.
It's almost like the sine curve. Right now, I think there's some synergies between the OEMs and the aftermarket out there. The OEMs are licensing a lot of people to say, hey, please take these older models we have, and please take care of them for us. We'll give you any data you need.
Here's the baton kind of thing.
Yeah. What usually happens is, after a while, someone notices how much money that team is making and doing the aftermarket. And so they say, well, we would like to take that back. And so then you dip back down, and then they try to take everything away. And then customer service usually goes down a little bit, and then up comes the sine curve again. Okay, can you guys do it for us again? So,
yeah,
I hate to say it, but I've been in this industry long enough to seen the ups and downs multiple times. It's just a wave. And so you simply say, all right, we just happen to be in this portion of the wave. Hold on.
It's cyclical. Continue
developing, continue your strategy, continue building your company, because when the wave comes back, you're going to be ready.
You got to be ready for it. Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of the times, like you say, when it comes to supporting the older aircraft, and I know you know what I'm talking about here when it comes to, like, the old Jet Rangers, the old long Rangers out there. Even some of the old Airbus A-Stars and stuff like this. they're becoming up and older in age, and not necessarily do they always have probably the capacity to support them anymore, or are their vendors are diminishing their to kind of promote their next up and coming product lines as they see come. So when it comes to kind of that older legacy fleet, it's the aftermarket solution is probably the right way to kind of go about supporting some of these aircraft that are 20, 40, 30, 50 years old. Like it's
Absolutely.
it doesn't make sense to kind of drop top dollars on an older aircraft. And that's just, we'd be the same way with our cars or motorcycles or mountain bikes, right? So
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Val. That's perfectly said.
so you're sorry, as I interjected there. So you're moving on from you're back in the valley with the family and they're happy again.
Yeah, so we're at AMTI. We build the company, and then of course, what happens is they get bought by a bigger company. And it was at that point, a couple of years after the acquisition, that they asked me to actually start developing for them the PMA side of the aftermarket. So this whole other 20 plus, 30 plus years that I was working, it was all repair. And so we decided to do PMA development, which is market parts. So it's, instead of buying a Ford air filter, you buy a Fram air filter. We're the Frams. And so we started a joint venture between Triumph and Heiko called HT Parts, Heiko Triumph Parts. And at that point, Heiko was arguably the largest PMA aftermarket company in the world. And so again, all I can say is I'm just the luckiest SOB in the world because, I happen to fall into the right place at the right time, and I'm working with all the industry experts in the PMA
come on, don't
industry.
discredit yourself, buddy. You know what they say, you got to be good to be lucky to be good, right?
Yeah, well, and a lot that is very, very true. But there is some luck or guardian angels or whatever you else want to say. But I seem to keep stumbling into good stuff. So I stumbled into that relationship. At that point, after a few years there of developing parts with the HT Parts Company, I was called upon by Able. Then I went to Able. Able was a repair company, and we developed PMA, Able Aerospace, and which was ultimately, we grew that company fantastically over the next 10 years. And once again, Textron Lycoming came in one day and says, I think we're done with you guys. I think it's time for us to purchase you. So, which was all good. And they've done very, very well with Able. They've continued to grow the company, not in the exact direction that me and the other owners and Lee, who was the CEO and majority owner of the company, wanted it to go. But I think they've been very, very fair. So of all the acquisitions I've seen, at least that one is palatable. So
that's probably one of the most iconic kind of, if you will, repair facilities 10, 15 years ago, where you guys made a splash and you were able to kind of appease to your customer base and appeal to a lot of incoming new customer base. And you had I wouldn't put it as aggressive, but you had a good organical growth chart that you had there, and you offered it right to your customer base, and your customer base responded to it. So kudos to you for that. That was well done, sir.
Oh, thank you. And we thank you. You mentioned something critical there, customers. And
yep.
Yeah, we had a very loyal customer base. And in order for them to be loyal to us, we had to be completely safe and completely reliable. So it was just it's a simple equation. You can't put doubt in their mind. We work in an industry where doubt just does not work.
So at that point, you were a vice president, or you were the vice president of Able at that time?
Actually, I was the president of Able Aerospace at that time. Yeah.
So running at that level of succession here, and when you're talking about, your customers and your loyalty to your customers, the challenges I'm imagining had to have been kind of really your talent that you had in-house, the technology that you offered, and the overcoming of the challenges of not only just offering the PMA, but offering the repairs, but the PMA is involved with it. Because I know still, and I see this with the PMA development here, it's still a challenge. Like you had a lot of hurdles kind of facing you at that particular point. Just talk about a little bit of that and the overcoming and the succession of that.
Oh man, this conversation could go an hour about, quite honestly. But I mean, no, it's a good one. I'll try to hit the peaks, as much as in terms of my peaks. Everybody's peaks are different.
Please. We're into the weeds, as you said, Anthony. This is it.
Yeah, you're so right. When you're making a PMA part, you are in fact saving the customer some money, and or you're making a part available that the customer cannot get. Both of those items also adding a risk to the customer that that you're introducing risk. When I say risk is when you're working with the OEM, it's tried and true. They're big. Don't get me wrong. There's problems. There's a lot of problems in that world, but at least it's a problem, it's a big company. PMA companies essentially have to be able to convince the customer that that risk is mitigated, that the risk is so small because of the quality systems and the engineering and the manufacturing that you've applied to those parts. And what you had mentioned is unbelievably critical. It's the people. It's the engineers. It's all of them. But let me just talk engineering at this point. It's the engineers that you have in your wheelhouse that have the industry knowledge that can develop any part out there and understand how it's going to operate, what environment it's going to operate, what are the nuances it's going to see. And it's having that sense of confidence in the quality of that part that it's twofold. Number one, the customer understands that backing, that knowledge, they get comfortable with it, as well as the FAA, because in the PMA world, the FAA is involved intimately, unless it's a licensed agreement PMA. They're involved with every approval, and that's just another risk for the FAA as well. Okay, here's a company coming out. They want to manufacture this part on an engine. That's a lot of risk. So you have to have the backing, the quality systems, the engineering systems, the manufacturing checks and balances, so that everyone knows, hey, this part's going to work. And if it doesn't, you have the means to take care of it in the industry, to get your arms, wrap your arms around it immediately, and so it minimizes the amount of impact it has in there, and then do corrective action to get it done. And I got to tell you, the PMA world lives on that. You just have to have that type of a company.
And unfortunately, it takes the one bad apple to basically ruin it for everybody on the PMA side of the world, where you have a foreign entity from another country, region, or a state or area that basically creates this PMA. If all of a sudden it takes a crap, now it kind of sets the whole PMA industry back and has them going, well, is it really worth it? I'm just like, it's nothing, it's a hard pill to swallow at that point. Going back to your checks, points, and balances, that has to come into place. And I try to tell our customers, we're not 100%. When I'm talking to my customer base, we're not 100%, but our metal is tested on how we react to a problem. That's going to determine what's going to be done business with you in the future. So
100% agree. Yeah, it's what it's when life is good, everybody looks fantastic. It's when life gets bad, that's really when your true face comes out. So.
Sure. Well, okay, continuing that. Sorry, I kind of jumped in and interrupted you there a little bit, but just kind of talking about.
Okay. After Able, and after Able was bought by Textron, I did a soft retirement. I'm doing some consulting now, mainly doing some DER work, and then working on some strategic development of companies. So let's say the companies they're privately owned, and they ultimately want to go public, or they want to be sold, or and I help them put the wickets in place to get themselves looking prettier. How much lipstick you need to put on, how much rouge you need to put on. So so I help develop their teams, their quality systems, their engineering systems, and more importantly, their management. I'm doing a little of that. I'm toying around with that.
With your consulting now, though, when you're jumping, like you say, companies to companies with stuff like that, what are the challenges that you're seeing? Are you still seeing, because like everybody's post-COVID, everyone's talking about talent retention, and is that still an issue? And there's materials issues of shortages and stuff like that. So when you're jumping into these companies, do you kind of expose that to them? Can you simply say, hey, like this is where you're kind of weak, or this is where your strong point, you should really kind of focus in on this? Or
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Well, it really depends on the companies, because all the companies that I work for, they're kind of at different stages. But everything you said there, I've run into all of it. Yeah, some of them they're going fat, dumb, and happy, and they're saying, hey, we have a great design, and all we have to do is manufacture it. And I says, well, do you happen to know that's one of the biggest issues you're going to run into is finding someone to manufacture that part.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that. We have others that have progressed farther than that, and now it's more, okay, what kind of system do you have if there's a problem that comes up, and how are you going to handle that problem? Talent retention, huge issue today, huge issue. But I don't know, at least from my amount that I'm into the industry right now, it seems like we do have the next generation of talent starting to come in. It's going to take a while. It's going to take some years, but most recently, I'd say in about the last year, I've seen some new talent entering the industry that I think is going to be very, very strong, very, very good. They think a little different, but I think it's going to work out, So, but right now, yeah, retention, yeah, I'd say, yeah, talent retention and finding talent, huge issues.
Are you finding, especially like I said, you and I say this respectfully, you had your engineering degree from a while ago, and you're finding these young up and comers and these individuals now, like you say, what you said earlier here, as far as their thinking different. Are you finding it much more dynamic? Are they a little more lofty, or is it just like it's just the way they got to the conclusion of what they started?
I think, yeah, the thought process is different, but that's been like that forever though, Val. I mean, I could have gone with the people that I graduated out of college with, and we all thought differently. We would end up in the same general area, but yeah, how we got there, you'd wonder like, well, how the hell did you do that? You're not even right, but in fact they were. So yeah, you do see some of that still. I'm seeing though some very creative minds that think differently than I used to and what I was used to. My engineering groups think, and I like that. They have we have a new technologies that are coming out. That we're living in a new world. Quite honestly, we have to have engineers, quality people, manufacturing people that are living in that world as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a different world to engineer and to manage.
I'm going to coin a phrase, and I can't remember. I'm sure it was said by about 1,000 people. Is that if you're not changing, you're dying?
100%. Yeah. You may not know it, but you are.
Okay, jumping back here a little bit. When you have a particular solid brand and a solid teammate around them, and you're talking to individuals that are engineers, AMEs or AMPs, excuse me, as a Canadian with an AME, or talking about AMEs and AMPs, when you have that general individual who's kind of knocking out of the park, for lack of a better term, and they're really kind of getting everything you're telling them and showing them and stuff like this. Talk to you about the succession plan, how to kind of bring them into where they're turning a wrench to now directing people to talk to about turning a wrench and eventually kind of replacing you kind of down the road, right? Because that's, you talk to all these professional entrepreneurs and professional individuals that have kind of put their names and lives on the line, but they always said that I'm always looking to replace myself down the road. So it's a deeper question. Sorry, if you might want to take a sip for your drink, feel free to do so.
No, I think I'm trying. There was a phrase at one point in saying advance to the highest level of failure or something like that. Promoted to the highest level of failure. And what that was alluding to is not every great engineer, supply chain manager, quality manager, or quality technician, or not everyone. I think the management, the leadership, directorship, president, CEO, that's a different. It's a different mindset.
Okay.
And quite honestly, you may have the strongest leader as an engineering manager, and yet he never wants to take a step into running a company. And so I think from what you were saying, Val, part of it is to realize, first of all, when you're creating a succession plan, don't you pick the person that's going to replace you. You've got to ask around and determine who actually has the want or the drive to get into more management, more leadership, more to succeed me at one point. To succeed whoever the individual is, not me or whoever's running the company or heading engineering. So I think part of it is working closely with them, and part of it is not giving them all the answers. I mean, you have to let them figure it out.
Okay.
And sometimes it's hard because you just want to say, no, the answer's 5, damn it, but you got to say, no, okay, you think it's 4, go calculate that again, go do it again, and keep working at it. And you might see that it's actually closer to 5, So I think that's important too. So don't, if you train someone to be just like you, then you just got to remember you just limited that organization to be only as good as you.
Mm.
And at no point should you ever think that you are the best of the best. Because, something that I've learned through the 30 plus years of working, every day I realize how little I actually know in the industry, and I know a lot, but it's how little I actually know
Yeah.
of everything.
So my takeaway from that is that basically you're allowing them to fail in order for them to kind of teach themselves to become the better person / engineer / technician / and have them kind of have that little bit of a setback, and don't let them kind of feel bad about failing because, like Edison said, it took me 1,000 times to figure out that it was a one light bulb to fix, right? Because I created one light bulb out of 1,000 failures.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I got you.
And what I see today a lot is I see impatience from both sides. They just want the answer, and for the most part, I just want to give the answer. Or someone who's leading the group just wants to give the answer, and you just gotta really temper yourself and say no. Well, as long as it's not going to adversely affect safety and quality of the product, at this point, you just got to let the process wean out and then manage them up, help them up, lead them up. It's not really manage, but it's more leadership. It's
sure.
Hey, let's talk about how you got there, and let's talk about some of the stuff that may be on the periphery you didn't see. And then you just hope next time they see some of that. Yeah.
To any engineers or any technicians that are going to be listening to this podcast, when you get pulled in for that type of criticism or that type of observation, don't take it as a downfall and just maybe kind of look at it as what can I build on with?
Yeah. Val, you have the best two words, because it's not criticism. It's more observation. I'm just telling you something I saw. Yeah. It has nothing to do with criticism. It's just, hey, I these old eyes might see it slightly different. Why don't you take a look at that?
You keep talking about your old man. Look at you. You're a handsome, young, fine stud of a man right there. Good for you.
Oh yeah, I wish. My wife thinks so I'm a winner.
That's all that matters, right? At the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Take a sip of your drink, young man. You deserved it. You deserved it on that one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'll join you. Cheers. So now that you've been a part of the industry for, like you said, over 30 years here now, both on rotor and fixed wing, when you're generally looking at how you're going to be delving into, I guess, both industries there when it comes to rotor and fixed wing, where do you see the challenges of what's coming up? Like this is going to be a harder question to answer to you because you're such an optimistic kind of guy, but I think that's what kind of attracts people to you and attracts corporations to you for your consulting abilities here. So if there's any challenges you can kind of speak to or kind of have as a heads up, what would it be?
The Vertical MRO podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine, the rotorcraft industry's #1 trusted multimedia resource. Visit Vertical Mag Media on YouTube to gain access to exclusive videos featuring operators in the field and more unique content from the pages of Vertical. Subscribe today to stay informed and inspired.
Not to be too nerdish here, because the engineer will always come out in me, but
please.
I see some of the new materials that are being used, some of the new technologies, and they're really limited to, at least in the technology and the knowledge that we have today, of how you're going to fix those once they break. So I think, we've got materials to go much hotter, much faster, but the issue is going to be what happens when they start to wear down. How do you fix them? So but hey, this is just a little bump in the road. They'll figure out ways of doing it. Then, one of the areas, and this is probably, I'm dodging the question a little bit here.
That's fine.
Because when it comes to, systems now, the electronics portion of them, the computer systems and all that, heavy into the industry. And that's an area I know zero about. So it's just scary to me. That is the black box. I'm like, I don't even know what that does.
Don't feel too intimidated. I think just because from what we grew up knowing as computers to what's available, look, you can get yourself some piece of technology today. It's outdated next week. So don't take it too hard on yourself.
Oh, thank you. But I think, in terms of going into the future, it's a good question. I think if you looked back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and you looked at the technology that was happening there, and you looked at the engineers that were being introduced to it, they would tell you the same thing, or the leaders or the CEOs of companies, they tell you the same thing I'm going to say today. It's new, it's a new technology, we're coming into it. What are we going to do? But I guess that's what we do. We figure things out. We figure out how to fix them and how to repair them and how to make them last longer and how to make them safer. Yeah, a lot of unknowns. I think keeping the technology within the U.S. and owning the materials that we're going to need to fix some of this stuff and to repair some of this stuff and to keep our aircraft in the air and to have ownership on the ideas and have ownership there. I think that's going to be, that to me worries me. I know right now, any program that you go to develop, one of the highest dollar issues is material. Finding the material to develop the PMA, finding the casting made of XYZ or the forging made of WLM, whatever that is, that's now, the cost of that is so high. Manufacturing has moved out, but we've had that happening for decades. It moves out, it comes back in, it moves out, it comes back in. But material cost and keeping the engineering talent and intellectual properties owned by us, I think those are the biggest issues we're going to run into.
You talk by intellectual property owned by U.S., you mean Canada as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're all one big happy family.
Just one big happy continent up here, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm blessed to call it a career on my side that I'm able to travel most of our continent. And I've been in some corners of this particular continent. You're like, holy crap, am I in a spot?
Yeah.
But
hey, we need your 3 planes to protect us up north. So
yeah. When it's minus 40 in January, right? Especially, Hey, listen, 2 guys in a slingshot in a canoe. That's come on. Cut us a break here.
Hey, it's been working somehow, so let's keep it going. So,
That's right. Let's
keep it going.
Awesome. Good to know all of this there, Anthony. I really like, and again, thank you again for kind of sharing a little bit of your track record, if you will, and kind of give us a little snapshot of who and what you are. And just, I hope anybody who listens to this kind of takes it away that there's positivity and there's persistence and there's an ability to kind of have and no matter what decade we're in, whether we're talking 30 years ago or 30 years from now, that patience is going to be able to kind of put you through something here. It's just a matter of kind of working collectively either with your team, your management, your VP or something like that, where it kind of shows in it's a collective effort to kind of come to a solution is what I'm basically trying to tell. So
thank you, Val. Hey, Val, can I mention one more item?
Please do so.
So, and I mentioned a little bit, but I just want to stress it. I've had a very, what I would consider very successful career, very good career, very happy career. I'm very, I was always very pleased with what we were doing, very content. And at the end of the day, it boils down to the people that were around me, the teams that were created and that I was able to work with. And I know a lot of people say that, but I lived it. I mean, I just had some phenomenal people that I worked with throughout my career and phenomenal teams. And without them, I would have been nothing, quite honestly. So I just want to reach out. There's hundreds of them out there, and if I can, you know what? If I got a few more minutes,
you do.
I'd like to. I'm going to reach out to 3 people. All right.
Go ahead, please.
Jay Donkersloot, who was the president, CEO, and owner of AMTI. Lee Benson, who was the CEO and owner of Able. 2 serial entrepreneurs that just did a phenomenal job. I mean, they created great teams. They had visions that were just beyond expectations. They did a fantastic job. I was lucky to have worked for both of them. Here's the curveball of all. An individual that everyone's going to know and a guy that I've worked with longer than Jay and Lee Benson, and that is Dan Rose.
Oh, wow.
He's a metallurgical engineer. I've worked literally with Dan my whole life.
I know Dan. He's a great individual. Wow, great shout out.
I tell you, he is probably one, if not the best engineer that I've ever known in terms of his holistic views of how to get from point A to point B. And I got to tell you, these 3 guys, I owe everything that I've got to those 3 guys. So I just wanted to reach out and be honest with myself.
That's you know what, dude? And this when Dan's a loyal listener. So when he hears us, I'm sure.
I didn't know that. So,
Hey, I ran into him,
he-
and he's a loyal listener. So good for you for shouting that. I know of Lee, and I don't know of the first individual there, but I know Dan. I work with him, so he's a good dude, solid. He's and patient as the day is long.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what you needed with the FAA. You need patience.
Oh, that and a couple of empty bottles on the shelf, right? Golly.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But no, those guys all helped shape my career, and thus I can do podcasts now with Val. So I appreciate it. So.
I'm the lucky benefactor. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. Listen, anytime that we can have a shout out to individuals that kind of help somebody to kind of get them through. There's not enough of that going around. You know, when you have kind of somebody that's, I'm going to call you credited here. You're accredited, and to kind of pay a little homage to their past, I'll always take that hands down. Like where you have the succession of an individual, and they remember that because again, you've been in the industry for a while, and the fact that you're able to kind of pillar that to your succession, that's awesome, dude. Well done.
Hey, thank you. Hey, and no disrespect to all the other people I didn't call out.
Yeah.
I have a limited time, but the list is many. The list is many of individuals out there that have shaped me one way or the other. So,
well, and I'm like you said, I'm lucky to have met you in my career at a very younger age, and then again, probably a little bit later on here. So we were able to kind of work together with a couple of things and kind of get some ideas. And you've helped me kind of grasp a couple of concept of approach. And I'd say now that it's been a few years since we kind of worked together here, but it still lives strong with me. So thanks for kind of being that positive influence on me, man. So I really appreciate you bringing that way.
Yeah, I enjoyed working with you, Val, and I'm sure we're not done yet. I'm
No,
sure at some point we're going to run into each other again. So.
Yeah, I'm sure, and it won't be just that over a podcast here. This is so for anybody that knows me. I went down a bit of a bourbon rabbit hole. This is the individual that introduced me to said rabbit hole. So this is I've gone down not too extensively, but I've come to appreciate the finer tastes of life because of Anthony and his introduction of bourbon and particular whiskeys and rye. So good for you for kind of getting me on that track. But
thank you.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes here, but I wanted to kind of just talk about so your company JASCO. So that's your consulting firm. What's on the horizon there? You can't be still running at the pace that you still have been running for a while here. You've got to be kind of tracking it off a little bit, or?
Well, for about 2-3 years ago, I started to track off, and now we're starting to track back on.
Okay. Wife is getting sick of you in the house. Get out.
Yeah, she says, "All right, you need to get out and go make money. Yeah, it's time for you to leave." So,
right.
So no, we're looking at doing some things. Still doing the consulting work in terms of DER and in terms of developing other companies. But there has been I have been approached, I should say, by a few companies / individuals who would like to, hey, let's get the old gang back, So, but the world has changed, so I'm not sure how deep if and when we do that, how deep it'll be. But I'm still open to to looking around, and but I'm really enjoying going into companies and helping them realize their dreams. To me, that takes some of my time, but the results seem to, I can work with 3 or 4 companies versus just working with one for 10 years straight to get them to realize their dream.
Right.
Now I can do it and have 4 times the appreciation when it's all over to say, hey, good job, we did it, So I'm really enjoying that, and I can see myself, and JASCO doing that for years to come. So.
Well, my friend, like I said, on behalf of everybody that's flying a helicopter nowadays, and we're able to kind of talk about everything that we can on this podcast. You've contributed quite a bit to it, sir. So I do thank you for your time into that. Like I said, everybody with a helicopter, anybody that's kind of known you from the past, I'm sure has nothing but good things to say about Mr. Anthony Saenz. So it's your.
Oh, well, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. Fly safe, everybody. Fly safe. Yeah.
In wrapping up here, buddy, just to kind of, like I said, we're going to leave this all out. What's your last piece of advice to anybody kind of listening to what you've gone through, what you've been through? Last piece of advice, make it as long or as short as you need it to be, my friend. Because
man, Val,
yeah, this is $1 million. This is a $64,000 question here, pops.
This is Oh, I'm sorry, I'm starting to lose you. I can't hear you.
We're breaking up.
Oh, the last piece of advice. What would that be? As an individual, never stop improving yourself. So I don't care what position you're in. I don't care if you're the CEO of the company or you're the first year in a company. continue to read, continue to add tools to your toolbox so that you can ultimately meet whatever dream you set yourself to have. So I see too often, people get their degree or people get their job and then they stop developing. Now, the world is changing. You said it earlier. Every day the world changes. You've got to change with it. So read, learn, observe. One of the best terms I've read, in a long time was seek first to understand before being understood. Listen, don't talk, just listen. So,
Yes.
Listen and learn. And there's a lot of talent out there, and even bad ideas you can learn from. But you've got to be able to listen to them long enough to do it. So just continue developing yourself, and that's something that happens today. Yeah.
Solid advice. This has taught me. This was told to me at a very young age. There's a reason why God gave us 2 ears and one mouth, so we can listen better than we can speak it. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Last question. Thanks for that, buddy. I appreciate that. That's.
I thought that was the last question.
No, this is the last question, and our friendship could hinge on it, depending on how you answer it.
Okay.
Pineapple belong on a pizza?
Absolutely.
God damn it! What the hell?
Not in a pizza that I would buy, but you got to be open.
No,
to
no.
everybody.
See, you're Switzerland now. You're neutral all of a sudden, right?
You know what? I got to tell you, I do like that ham and pineapple pizza.
Oh, you went total Hawaiian on it, right? Oh, okay, all right. All right. So long as you put the piece of meat in there, I'm okay with you, brother. There's still a lot of love there with you.
Pineapple without ham is not a pizza, buddy.
There's people that eat it. Could I have a pineapple and peppers pizza? I'm like, what? Just go have a salad. You don't get a body like this from not having too much pizzas. Have you seen this temple? Look at this thing, right? So
they've been working on it for years. Leave me alone. Yeah.
That's right. At this point, there's a lot. This is a high ROI right here. So on that note, my friend, you're still my friend. You're still a good friend of mine. And I still cherish our friendship. So I appreciate you for coming on our podcast right now and having said that, all you said onto this show here. So I appreciate you more than you know.
Hey, thank you, Val. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of our listeners here. And this is the end of Mr. Saenz here with us. So to that, thanks for listening to Vertical MRO. And we'll see you next cast. Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Vertical Aviation International. With 80 years of service under our belts, the helicopter industry continues to innovate. We're growing with new aircraft and technology coming to the flight line and hangar. The industry's association is changing too. Helicopter Association International, or HAI, is now VAI, Vertical Aviation International. VAI unites the industry and advocates for you. Visit verticalavi.org/benefits to see how joining VAI connects you with your vertical community. Together, let's power up.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
The Vertical MRO podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine, the rotorcraft industry's #1 trusted multimedia resource. Visit Vertical Mag Media on YouTube to gain access to exclusive videos featuring operators in the field and more unique content from the pages of Vertical. Subscribe today to stay informed and inspired.
Thanks for joining us on this enlightening conversation and episode featuring Mr. Anthony Saenz. He's a true gentleman in our helicopter industry. From his beginnings as an engineer to his current role at the helm of his own consulting company, his journey has been one of innovation, leadership, and unwavering dedication and excellence to our industry. As we conclude our conversation with Anthony, we extend our sincere appreciation for his candid insights and wealth of experience shared with us today. To our listeners, I sure hope you gained valuable perspectives and some inspiration from Anthony's journey and expertise. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just beginning your career at the helicopter industry, let his story serve as a beacon of guidance and motivation on your own path to success. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions and stories from this awesome podcast, leaders in the helicopter industry and beyond. Until next time, keep that rotor turning and may you fly in clear skies. And as always, thanks for listening to Vertical MRO and letting us, the Helicast team, into your world. Val, over and out.
This has been the Vertical MRO Podcast. Join us next time for another edition of the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.